Mr. Arrington's recognized to strike the last word.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We all agree that in some cases and in some classes of drugs, the markets are working. In generics, biosimilars, and other aspects, it's working to drive costs down. But in some cases and in some classes of drugs, it's not working, and it's not working too often. Between July 2021 and July 22, over 1,200 drugs outpaced inflation. The average price of those drugs were 31% in terms of the increase of those drugs. Some drugs in that group increased by 500% or $20,000. I've said this before, and I believe that in this principle, markets are the best way to deliver value. Markets are the best way to get at that equilibrium of cost and quality. Two fundamental operating functions of markets are competition and consumer choice. Competition drives cost down and quality up, and you can't have consumer choice if you don't have meaningful information to empower consumers to shop for the best value for the needs of the consumer and their families. Drivers of this inordinate pricing in drugs is A, lack of competition, and B, lack of transparency or meaningful information for consumers. On the competition side, it's consolidation of power within a few in the supply chain and vertical integration along the supply chain. And I know, Mr. Chairman, we will get at that at some point, but I think that's a fundamental problem that has to be addressed. I know you do as well. I think another distortive dynamic that is causing the increase in drug prices is the manipulation of intellectual property by drug manufacturers to extend their exclusivity, or, as we say in West Texas, monopoly forces, right? There's utility in IP. That's a constitutional sort of protection of private property, and it encourages innovation and cures, but you game it and you can gouge patients and consumers and you can distort the market. That's what's happening, and I look forward to addressing that. But today, I'm proud to introduce a bill that would address the lack of transparency in the real price of drugs because of this interesting relationship between insurance companies and their negotiators, PBMs, and drug manufacturers. And I've long held the view that it's one thing to negotiate the price and include your profit and to negotiate and compete for that, but then to include a rebate, or what we call in West Texas a kickback, that we know nothing about. That is, and by the way, the reason they're able to do that is because of an anti-kickback waiver. Like who signed off on that deal? Mr. Chairman, I'd like to do away with the anti-kickback waiver altogether, or I'd like to push the rebate to the point of sale, and I've introduced legislation to that effect. But at a minimum, and a good place to start is, let's shine a light on that opaque exchange where there's not only profit, but there's this kickback that presumably, and is advertised, at reducing the premiums for consumers. So it's in our best interest to not know about that, apparently. One aspect to this is that PBMs negotiate also on behalf of employers. And this bill will require that PBMs reveal their net prices, that is, their negotiated price, net the rebate, so that employers negotiating on behalf of their employees can have the information to be true consumers and shoppers and exercise their right to get the options best suited for their employees. Seems like a good thing. That's just one dial to make the markets work better. And this bill will address that by making that net price, the real price of drugs, available to employers. And I thank you for the indulgence, and I yield back.